if the government addresses that issue of closed down MSMEs, some of them will revive. MSMEs closure directly contributed to job loss. So it's possible that the government will aware of that issue. We have flagged it. I flagged it immediately after COVID and immediately after GST. So the combination of two factors led to several lakh MSMEs closure, and it's possible that they will address that issue. But I can't speak for the government. I can only speculate. Right. I can only hope that they will. This is not the end of the road. This is the beginning of the journey to revise and revamp the GST structure. Right. There are still pitfalls. For example, the entire GST law is so complicated that no ordinary businessman can file the return on his own. In fact, in a small town like Karaikudi, there's a mushroom of so-called accountants, not necessarily qualified, but familiar with computers, and they have mushroomed, and every shopkeeper has to engage somebody to file the return. I have appeared in several cases of GST disputes, and it's so complicated. I mean, I'm willing to help simplify the law. They claim that they are simplifying the law, but the GST law is the most complicated law. And for years, they did not even prescribe the forms. Right. They had ad hoc forms. Therefore, there are many, many other issues. But now that they have started this journey, I hope they will be wise enough to continue the journey and complete the journey.
Right. Mr. Chidambaram, the Prime Minister...
Since you're mentioning... Sorry, Vasudha, I just wanted a subsequent question to Mr. Chidambaram on, since he's brought up Karaikudi, I also want to bring up Tirupur because that's one of the areas where there's going to be enormous distress because of Trump's tariffs. And you spotted about the MSME sector per se. In a sense, you would believe that there needs to be multiple steps at an enormous scale to address the core issues in the economy after this GST reforms measures roll in.
Of course. This is not the panacea for all the ills of the economy. They have to do several other things. But at least I'm happy that they have addressed a large portion of the GST problem. Not entirely. But there are many other issues that they have to address.
Right. Mr. Chidambaram, I remember your piece, and I really want to ask you this about the bully in India, and you talked about Trump tariffs. Are you optimistic that India will be able to navigate the situation with regard to tariffs?
I don't know. I think the Indian Foreign Service is still Indian, but it no longer serves the government because the government believes that the Indian Foreign Service does not serve them. And they treat it as a foreign. If they heed the advice of the Indian Foreign Service, seasoned diplomats, I think we can navigate it. But if they act on instinct, a Trumpian instinct, if we also act on instinct, Trumpian instinct. I mean, you do something instinctively and I do something instinctively. I think the Jula diplomacy, Dosti diplomacy are all no place in a real practical world. It's a hard-nosed world. You have to rely upon professionals, seasoned diplomats, people who have known the American establishment for several years. If you rely upon them, I'm sure it can be navigated. How does China navigate America? Because the Chinese foreign bureaucracy or foreign service bureaucracy is deeply entrenched. But here, I think I've known people tell me or tell others who told me that the foreign service is not dependent upon as much as it should. And this is all political instinct prompting responses.
Right. But Mr. Chidambaram,
leaving the diplomatic aspect aside, sir, in case, in a sense, in terms of the MSME sector, there is going to be a short-term impact and then there is going to be a long-term impact of the Trump tariffs. What would you believe is that one key measure that's needed in the short term to ensure they don't dip below a tipping point?
MSMEs.
Yes.
Are you talking about MSMEs? All right.
Yes.
MSMEs which are running will get a boost by the GST cuts. They may not require too much help, except perhaps working capital. If they have to expand their production, if they expand their inventory, if they have to make capital investment, they should be given working capital and easy credit. But for the MSMEs which have closed down, there should be a well thought out package. Why are they closed down? Which sectors have they closed down? Sector by sector, you should invite the MSMEs entrepreneurs who have closed down and find out what ails them and make sure that they reopen the MSMEs. It's possible. It requires hard work, but I'm sure the FM will take this advice as good advice and put in the hard work.
Right. Mr. Chidambaram, as a prominent voice of the opposition, what is your message to the Finance Minister and the Prime Minister on the GST reform, specifically on the implementation, because the rates would get announced, I mean, they'll be in place on the 22nd of September. The Prime Minister has pitched this as a very big Diwali gift for all Indians.
It's not a Diwali gift. I mean, this paternalistic attitude is what I oppose. It's not a Diwali gift. It's a blow to the industry, to the consumers, especially to the MSMEs. They have realized that they dealt a severe blow. They are repenting for the blow. If I was in his position or in a similar position, I would say, all right, I'm sorry that we took 8 years to realize this mistake. But I am now willing to redress the injuries. Come and tell me. And first, he should start by consulting the opposition leaders. He should start by consulting economists. He should start by consulting people who understand finance and economics. Now, they may be neutral, they may be belonging to the opposition parties, they may be economists who are out of favor, but irrespective of their label, you should address the issue by taking as many views on board as possible. And then find out, I think there are enough people in the government today who can distill the recommendations into concrete action. For example, Mr. T.V. Somanathan is their cabinet secretary. There is Mr. Shaktikanta Das, who is the secretary to the Prime Minister. And there are many other people. You should leave it to them and then ask them to distill the recommendations. Then you can take a political view. But you can't take a political view and say, now bend economic theory and economic principles to my political instinct.
Right. So you're making a point of advice there to the government. Sir, my final question to you before I let you go. What's your advice to young finance ministers and revenue ministers in the opposition's ruled states? I mean, would you believe that they need to also look at this in a national prism, or not just look at it from state-specific prisms, because there are multiple dimensions at play here?
So I don't know of no state belonging to rule by the BJP or the opposition which opposes the GST in principle. There's no other state. There were two states when we tried to implement the GST. One was Gujarat and one was Madhya Pradesh. But that story we'll tell you on another occasion. There is no time for that story. But today, no state opposes GST. But the state has to guard its revenue. The state has to deliver within its revenue. And therefore, the state point of view is relevant and material. You should take on board the state's point of view and find out a way to compensate them if they suffer a loss. I don't know. The math has to be done, whether these rates will lead to a gross loss of revenue. See, apparently there will be a loss of revenue, but on the other side, there will be a boost in consumption. There will be an expansion of industry. There will be an expansion of production. Therefore, that will compensate to some extent. So you'll have to do the pluses and minuses, and come to a conclusion. But if there is a loss to states, it must be compensated. Once you compensate the states through a fair formula, why should any state, BJP or non-BJP, oppose it? I don't think they will oppose it.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chidambaram, for joining us. Appreciate your time, sir. P Chidambaram, their Congress leader, and also Rajya Sabha MP and former Finance Minister, making that important point that policy needs to be distilled into action and consultation is key. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day.
Well, that was the former Finance Minister, but the Prime Minister has sent out a very stern, strong message, Vasudha, on the GST reforms that were announced and will roll out on 22nd of September.
That's right, Veera. He has targeted the Congress party, saying that the Congress's taxation system was anti-middle class and they did not even spare children's toffees.
उस समय कितनी बड़ी मात्रा में टैक्स लिया जाता था पुरानी सरकार में। 2014 में मेरे आने से पहले रसोई का सामान हो या खेती किसानी से जुड़ी चीजें हो या फिर दवाइयां और यहां तक जीवन बीमा भी, ऐसी अनेक चीजों पर कांग्रेस सरकार अलग अलग टैक्स लेती थी। अगर वही दौर होता, अगर आज आप 2014 के हिसाब से होते तो आपको 100 रुपया की अगर चीज कोई खरीदते हैं तो 20-25 रुपया टैक्स का देना पड़ता है, अगर उस समय का हिसाब लगाए तो। लेकिन अब आपने मुझे सेवा का मौका दिया है। भाजपा सरकार में, एनडीए सरकार में हमारा जोर इस बात का है कि बचत कैसे ज्यादा से ज्यादा हो, परिवारों का खर्चा कम कैसे हो।
Well, the Prime Minister sending out a political message there. But joining us now is former Revenue Secretary and Chairperson of the 15th Finance Commission, Mr. N.K. Singh. Sir, thanks very much for speaking to us. There's a universal acknowledgement that this is a move on the right track. P Chidambaram, of course, saying it's 8 years too late. What are your key areas of concerns, if any, and highlights otherwise with states? Some states are fearing a revenue shortfall. What compensation mechanisms are perhaps needed to ensure that federal trust doesn't break down?
So there are multiple questions which are embedded in one omnibus question of yours, if I may say so. So let me begin with the positives. I think that it is widely appreciated. I heard towards the end, I heard the former Finance Minister, Mr. Chidambaram, also speak, and I took note of what he was saying, except that, all honesty, I think that Mr. Chidambaram would be the first to concede that the idea of the GST was mooted in 1991 as part of the economic reforms of 1991. If you see the leftover notes left by of that period, you will see that we moved over. Chidambaram is very well aware of a unified mod VAT and so on. But right up to the time of Prime Minister Modi, they did not have the ability to garner support with the states to be able to enact the far-reaching legislation in which the states have voluntarily submerged and subsumed their financial sovereignty to this new organ and entity, the GST Council. So this is the first thing that it is, I think it's Prime Minister Modi period when the GST commenced. That's the first thing. Second, it commenced in a manner which it took some time to get calibrated. It's all right to say that they took 8 years, but they could not even start the GST during that period. So in 8 years, we have made substantial progress to achieve the objective, which we did yesterday in a very far-reaching recalibration of the GST. Consider the items. of the number of items on which there is zero GST. These are all items of mass consumption on which people were paying money, directly enhances their consumption, it directly enhances the income of the segment which really needed and deserved to be supported. Simplifications of other rates is a direct benefit to startups, to MSEBs, enhancing income, and all the growth multipliers which were there. You asked the last question, namely that do I fear that there will be shortfalls? What are compensating mechanisms which are needed for the states? Let me say that three very brief comments. First of all, which is important, is that if you would have watched yesterday's press interview, the Finance Minister and the Revenue Secretary intervened to say that it's difficult to say because it's difficult to predict and project likely revenue buoyancy. I believe that the enhanced consumption, enhanced income and growth will really lead to a revenue buoyancy where both the central government and the state governments would benefit, and that it is a very, very narrow suboptimal interpretation that the elasticity of demand on account of the reduction in the tax rates would be so grossly inadequate to require this. But I think this is for the future. The most important thing is this is one of the biggest growth-enhancing measures in recent times.
But Mr. Singh, there's this concern that this new two-slab GST structure, of course, could broaden compliance and also improve ease of doing business, which has been a priority for the government. We all heard about that Pillar 3. But do you think that small traders, do they risk getting left behind?
No. I think that the fact that GST has been reduced to zero, as I said, in multiple items, if they want to be part of the input chain, they can, of course, begin, if their turnover justifies, at the very base level where it's next to minimal. So I think that there is a win-win for everyone. There's a win-win for you, for me. We go to our table and see the items which are now coming tax-free. I do not see that fear. Rather, I see a growth multiplier, a robust response to the need to project India to a growth trajectory which is needed. Take the 6.5 to 7.58%, on which all the assumptions are predicated. Tax reforms on income tax, a far-reaching reform, if you recall, was done by the Finance Minister in the last budget. Earlier than that, if you remember, even during the pandemic, it was Prime Minister Modi who converted that challenge into an opportunity. The current international situation enjoins upon us to grasp this opportunity, to bring about qualitative changes and enhance the comparative efficiency of the Indian economy. Be able to have a growth which is necessary to justify India becoming a high-income country by 2047.
You're making a very important point there, sir, but I also want to bring your attention to this move, which is expected to boost demand. As you say, the buoyancy will come in. But does this address the enormity of perhaps what some would argue the economic distress at some levels because of job losses, both in terms of tariff situations as well as in terms of the consequence of technology? Do you believe that this needs to be backed by several other measures to make sure that there is an overall, overall address of the economic situation in the country?
Let me put it this way to you. This GST, about which the Prime Minister spoke in his Independence Day, has been implemented in record time. Not that it happened then, because the Finance Minister very correctly pointed out that this is not a response to what has happened in the US tariff situation. The work on this has been going on for a year and a half with considerable amount of due diligence. Several committees and subcommittees of the GST Council had gone into it with greater granularity. And then this was the opportune moment following the Prime Minister's announcement to lay out this. Now, this does not mean that there won't be other reform measures which will be growth enhancing, along with this far-reaching reform of the GST. This is a very, very robust action But this is not the end of the action. The Prime Minister has set up several task forces. He has set up several groups. Action is taking place at multiple levels, which will further catalyze this great benefit which is going to come to an average person on account of what has happened yesterday.
Right. Mr. Singh, I'm going to ask you a very basic question. Can the lower GST on essentials meaningfully bring down inflation for ordinary households, increasing savings in a simple way, in a significant way? Because we're talking about essentials like hair oil, shampoo, paneer, notebooks. But is the inflation or is the saving going to go up in a significant way?
Let me put this way to you, that one can be a devil's advocate by being extra cautious in assuming that there is zero price elasticity of demand. But experience and economic experience suggests that when cost comes down, income goes up, that instead of merely having all the savings, we'll also put a reasonable part of it in enhanced consumption from where the growth multiplier begins. And that is really the recurring benefit of the dynamic story as this evolves further.
Important points that you're making there. Thanks very much there, Mr. N.K. Singh, for taking time out and decoding what's been touted as a major move, a big Diwali boost for the economy ahead of the festive season. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll have to take a short break here on the Southern View. Much more when we come back.
Hello, Moto.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.
Prime Minister Modi's big GST strike on opposition. Prime Minister says earlier governments taxed everything while pro-people governance is his mantra. There was massive ruckus in Bengal Assembly today as BJP MLAs got dragged out of the House. Mamata Banerjee declares she will not let BJP win the state. Prime Minister Modi holds bilateral talks with the Prime Minister of Singapore, reiterates that fighting terrorism is everybody's duty. Supreme Court issues notice to flood states saying that it's now clear that there has been illegal felling of trees in concerned states.
तू ही तो है जिसकी सच्चाई वाली क्लैरिटी की वजह से मैं आज यहाँ हूँ।
गोल्ड प्लस सिल्वॉक्सी मिरर्स, ऐसी क्लैरिटी कि आपको सिर्फ सच नजर आए, चाहे कितने भी साल बीत जाएं।
माय बर्थडे गिफ्ट टू पापा, ये उनके पापा की पहली गाड़ी एक गराज में पड़ी थी दार्जिलिंग में, फिर 3 मैकेनिक, पेंटिंग, पॉलिशिंग। जब इसे फाइनली घर लाया ना, तब लगा लाइफ में ग्रो किया है।
SIP करो, इन्वेस्ट करो, लाइफ में ग्रो करो।
प्रतिभूति बाजार में निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। निवेश करने से पहले सभी संबंधित दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
फिनिस्टा विंडोज, ब्यूटीफुल एंड ड्यूरेबल डिजाइन्स, इंस्टॉलेशन से मेंटेनेंस की लाइफ लॉन्ग कस्टमर सर्विस। आपके घर में फिनिस्टा नहीं है तो कॉल कीजिए।
Finesta.
Rajasthan is history, culture and much more. And I have been reporting on all things royal for more than 25 years.
The colors, the culture and the complexities of the Northeast is different from the rest of the country. I have been bringing the Northeast closer to the capital for over 15 years. Madhya Pradesh is the heart of India and I have been capturing its every beat for over 10 years, covering the corridors of power, what is said, what is left unsaid, and what it actually means for you and me. I have it all covered.
Kashmir is often called paradise on earth, a region that has been in a state of flux from conflict to India's crowning glory. I have been reporting and decoding Jammu and Kashmir for last 3 decades.
Captain Chakravarti, not one but 2 warships. That's amazing. You know, Vishnu and I, through our careers, have been to many commissionings. Vishnu a few more than me because he's slightly older than me.
He wants to rub that in. Yeah, but that's just a side dig. Carry on with the...
Yeah, but 2 ships is incredible. I mean, that's, tell us why that is so significant. You know, the Indian Navy with its huge expanding responsibilities is hungry for more ships. So getting 2 ships at the same time is a bonus, isn't it, sir?
Yeah, of course. Like you said it yourself, the responsibilities are increasing. Indian Ocean is where the action is happening, and Indian Ocean is going to be the future playground for all not just the navies, the nations around the world. And Indian Navy, as the preferred security partner, is very active in this area. Given the responsibility and the large area that is, the number of assets is required. And that's the reason we are getting these warships. They're not just numbers, it's not just the quantity, it's the quality of these warships also, because they have high speed and they have got very large endurance and they can stay out at sea for long times. The frigates are very versatile ships to be. And so these 2 warships are going to add a punch, not just to the Eastern Naval Command, in particular, of course, Eastern Naval Command, but to the Indian Navy in general.
हेलो बोलिए मैडम, डब्बा ट्रेडिंग कब से चल रहा है पता है मैडम आपको? हम और आप तो जन्म भी नहीं हुआ था हमारा.
We investigated a shady advisory firm that has spent big bucks on advertising on the front pages of national dailies.
ये आपको बिल्कुल उसका ऐसे हल्का सा भी खौफ नहीं है.
मैडम एक बात को खौफ किस लिए रखना चाहिए तो बताओ, कौन सा गलत काम कर रहा हूँ मैं?
After our report, we also saw NSE came out with a cautionary circular to the investors. Market Regulator Securities and Exchange Board of India has also come out with a release talking about the actions that it has taken. Cyber complaint has also been filed against the entities involved in this entire Dabba trading scam.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India, it matters to India, and it matters to me, and it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7.
What seems settled for me is unfinished business. So I rewind, I pause, I reflect, I dig until what's buried stands up to be counted. Breaking ground, not just headlines, the meaning behind them. This is Breaking Ground with me, Vedika Sood.
ब्रेकिंग न्यूज का जमाना है, सबको तिल का ताड़ और राई का पहाड़ बनाना है। ऐसे में जनता के जूते के अंदर फंसा कंकड़ कौन देखे? बड़े बड़े मुद्दों के शोर में जमीन से जुड़े मुद्दे अक्सर खो जाते हैं, लेकिन देश तरक्की तब करता है जब जनता के माथे की शिकन हमारी हेडलाइंस बनती है। मैं सैयद सुहेल भारत को जीता हूं, भारत की बात बताता हूं एनडीटीवी इंडिया पर।
We'll go in a bulletproof vehicle, which is a make in
Welcome back now to news that's breaking right now on the issue of shameful language used by legislatures, whether it's from the Congress or the BJP in Karnataka. If it was a crass comment by veteran Congress leader R.V. Deshpande to women journalists in his constituency questioning the state of maternity medical facilities, a BJP MLA insulted a woman superintendent of police and called her a quote-unquote pet dog of the Congress, for which the Women's Commission, Vasudha, has written to the police to take the matter seriously.
That's right, Veera. These are not the first offensive, abusive comments made by legislators in this country, and this is beyond just Karnataka. We've seen this happen across the country. Police, of course, have registered an FIR against BJP MLA BP Harish for his comments against Davangere SP Uma Prashant. But the real issue is if such comments often are brushed under the carpet by political parties. A special face-off up ahead, but first let's listen in to the reactions.
ಆ ಎಸ್ ಪಿ ಅವ್ರು ಮಾಡೋದು ನೋಡಿಬಿಟ್ರಂತೂ ಒಬ್ಬ ಶಾಸಕರು ಸಭೆಗೆ ಹೋದರೆ ಮುಖ ತಿರ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದೇ ಶಾಮನೂರು ಮಂತಂದವರು ಒಂದೊಂದು ಗಂಟೆ ಗೇಟಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕಾದು ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದಿದ್ದನ್ನು ಸೇಮ್ ಅವ್ರ ಮನೆ ಪಾಮರಿನ ನಾಯಿ ಥರ ವರ್ತನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
I don't know why the media is always surprised when BJP MPs, MLAs or their entire cadres make derogatory remarks on women. That is what they are taught. That's what they are taught in their RSS shakhas. The Manusmriti is in their blood. That is why they speak like this. This is not the first time that's happened. You heard what Mr. Ravi Kumar told about the Kalburgi DCA, the IAS officer earlier, that she's come from Pakistan. You heard what he had spoken about the Chief Secretary derogatively. And now this is nothing but a continued trend of BJP. So I am not surprised that they make derogatory comments against women. But what I am surprised is that they think it is okay.
Deepak Bopanna joins us with the latest. Deepak, go ahead. Tell us what you're hearing at the moment.
The problem here seems to stem from the fact that the politicians think that they can get away by saying anything. And these are not, ordinary women. There are women in power. Last time it was the Chief Secretary of Karnataka, Shalini Rajneesh, where there were some crass comments that were made. Earlier it was the DC of Kalburgi, where some crass comments were made. Now you have, VP Harish, the MLA from Harish, comment against the SP Uma Prashant, and finally it looks like there is something that's happening because the Women's Commission has taken cognizance. She has written to the IGP and also the SP of Davangere, which is Uma herself, and has asked for an action taken report to be submitted to the state's Women's Commission as soon as possible, and also ensure that there's a thorough and detailed inquiry into the matter. We'll really have to see whether action will be taken, because that seems to be the need of the hour, because time and again controversial class sexist comments continue to be made, but because they feel that they can get away with it, they continue to make that with even more vigor than the previous time. So right now the action needs to be taken against them, and the Women's Commission taking cognizance probably is a step forward in that direction.
Right, thanks very much there, Deepak. But remember, this is beyond party lines, Vasudha. If it's the question of a BJP MLA now, and as Deepak was pointing out in the past as well, there have been MLCs who made crass comments, abusive comments against women officials and women bureaucrats, even as high as the Chief Secretary. It was Congress's veteran MLA, R.V. Deshpande, who was in a controversy a few days ago for making a crass remark at a journalist who was all she was asking there, Vasudha, was about the state of maternity facilities, health facilities in the village. This is what he said.
ಏನ್ ಸರ್ ಆಯ್ತು ನಮ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಆಯ್ತು ಸರ್, ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಜನರ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಹೆಂಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ನೀವು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಗಮನ ಹರಿಸಿ ನಿಮ್ ಕಾಲಾವಧಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿಸಿ ಸರ್. ಆಯ್ತಮ್ಮ ಆಯ್ತು.
See, that is the state of affair of the health department and the Congress government in the state of Karnataka. It has been badly managed. The most important social sectors, let it be education or housing or healthcare, drinking water, has been completely neglected, and people of Karnataka have been suffering very badly because of the misgovernance, and probably it has been very strongly reflected by the statement of R.V. Deshpande ji, a leader. He himself has become so helpless. Imagine the plight of the common man.
Well, as I mentioned, this is beyond political parties. It's the question of abusive language in politics. Does it get brushed under the carpet and condoned? There was a huge furor over remarks against the Prime Minister in Bihar, but is that a pure political optics that it's being debated? What about comments of this nature that get condoned? Joining us this evening, Siddharth Yadav of the BJP as well as Sujata Paul of the Congress. Siddharth Yadav, you've heard the comments there. A BJP legislator is calling a superintendent of police a pet dog. A Congress legislator is being absolutely crass in responding to a woman journalist asking him a serious question. Does this often get political acceptance and brushed under the carpet?
No, I do not think that such statements made by any faction of the political spectrum should get condoned. There definitely should be a sanctity, and there definitely should be a discipline of what politicians and political leaders say. And we as a Bharatiya Janata Party try to maintain that. What has to be understood is there are three issues that are currently in this. Number one is the issue in Karnataka. What people in Karnataka are facing, what the opposition in Karnataka is facing, is what is trying to being highlighted when such issues are being faced. When people face such misgovernance issues, definitely people have to voice it up. When officers and administration in Karnataka do not listen to welfare issues of the public, welfare issues raised by the elected representatives of the public, but are often seen as political activists serving one political party or one political family, then definitely it has to be voiced. Number two, this can